Hi everyone, myself Dr. M. Lakshmi Prasad, working as an associate professor in the Department of Data Science in Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. In this video, I am going to discuss about what are the charts available for representing the categorical data. So normally the data is going to be classified into different types. So one of the types should be the categorical data. So here that the categorical data is going to be visualized in the form of tables, what we call as summarizing the table, and where you can also represent in the form of visualization by make use of bar charts, pie charts, and Pareto diagram. So normally we are going to have different types of data. What I'm going to say that discrete data, and second one is categorical data. So now already I told what are the charts that are available for representing this discrete data. So now I'm going to explain what are the charts available for representing this categorical data. So normally we're going to have the bar chart, pie charts, and Pareto diagram. So these are the different types of visualization techniques that are available for representing the categorical data. So normally the data what we get that should be represented in the form of tables. So suppose we have a data like current investment portfolio. So for that I'm going to consider the investment types and then amount in the form of $1,000 and then percent I'm considering. So investment type should be of the type like stocks, bonds, CDs, and savings. So these are the variables what I'm going to consider here, and in this I'm going to consider so how much amount of dollars I get it, and what type of how much of percentage I'm going to get it, and what should be the total amount. Like this I can able to get it out. So for this data summarizing the table where I can able to represent in the form of a table, that one what we called as summarizing the data. So normally we are going to get the data in the form of the text. So that text is going to be represented in the form of a table here. So that thing should be considered as the summarizing of the table of the data. So for that we are going to have different types of bar charts and pie charts. So already I covered some of the topics that may be related to the bar chart and pie chart here, and the bar chart and pie chart are often going to be used for representing this qualitative data, what we're able to call it as a category data. Normally I'm going to consider this here. The height of the bar should be considered, and size of the price going to be show the frequency, and then how much a percentage is to be considered for each category. Okay, so that may be the bar chart and pie chart. So normally the most of useful charts that may be considered for this qualitative or category data may be the bar chart and pie chart, and the height of the bar, and what should be the height of the bar, and how much should be the space between the one bar to the another bar, and then what should be the size of this uh, uh, pie diagram. So how much of frequency I have to be considered, that and all how to going to see now. So the data what I took previously, that should be current investment portfolio. For that, how I can able to represent this bar chart. So normally different types of bar charts are available. So that may be vertical bar chart, and second one may be horizontal bar chart. Next one is that stacked bar chart and 100% stacked bar chart. So these are the some of these different types of bar chart what I covered previously in previous videos as well. And suppose for this kind of application, so how can I able to represent the bar chart here? So it should be which kind of chart is this suitable, how to be find it out for any kind of applications. Suppose I'm going to consider this horizontal bar chart. So for that I'm going to consider the variables on x and y axis, and then amount in dollars I'm going to be considered along the y-axis and x-axis here. So for this, suppose if I'm going to consider the stocks, so stock should be $46.5 thousand dollars. So for that I'm going to represent a bar. So it should be of this, so 45, and this should be 46. So up to that I'm going to be drawn a bar here. So next one should be bonds. So that should be 32. So I marked here, and then I'm going to draw a bar, and equal space also should be maintained here while drawing the bar. And another sum, let it be 1. And similarly for CD, how much current deposits? 15.5. So 15 is this one, 0.5 I'm going to mark, and then I'm going to draw. So same thing I can also be drawn in the form of vertical bars also. Okay, so what is the best way of representing the bar chart? We can able to consider it here. And next one is pie chart. So same thing I can able to represent in the form of pie chart. Suppose if I'm going to represent the percentages for the visualization of the data, then I have to go for the pie chart. So normally this pie chart is going to be fixed. It should be for 100% of data here. So let's take an example. So just now current investment portfolio. For that I'm going to represent the percentage of this problem in the form of data visualization. So what is the values I'm going to percentage? That should be rounded off to the nearest value. Suppose if I'm going to consider what is the first one, that should be the stocks, right? So for that 42.25 I can able to mark it as the 42 here. And similarly for this savings, it should be marked 15%, and this one should be 29%, and this should be 14%. Like this I'm going to mark, and the sum of this all the percentage should be equal to the 100%. So let's first initially draw a circle with the make use of this protractor. So make an angle of 42 and represented this. This is for stocks, what I shown to you in the diagram. And similarly I'm going to consider make an angle of 29. So this should be the bonds. And similarly next one should be CD. So that should be current deposit. It should be of 14% here. So like this I have to make use of this pie chart. So in a different ways or different visualization I can also make use of different colors as well and different patterns as well for representing the example. And next one should be that is a Pareto diagram. So normally this one is going to be used to portray the categorical data. So normally the bar chart where the categories are going to be shown in the form of decreasing order of frequency, and other type of graphs may also available like a cumulative polygon, which is also going to be shown in the same graph, and which is also used to separate the vital few element from the trivial many. So the Pareto diagram is the thing which is mainly going to represent the categorical data, and normally this bar chart mainly focus on a descending order of the frequency. And similarly the similar graph what I said should be the cumulative polygon, so which is almost similar to Pareto diagram as well. So normally this Pareto diagram is mainly to use to separate the vital view from the trivial elements of the variables. So for representing this Pareto diagram, so for the current example, what I took here is that current investment portfolio. For that, so initially what I did here is that, so I initially have to make a bar diagram which should be of in the form of vertical one. So for that, after making this, so I have to make an percentage diagram here. So how much of percentage for this 42.5 for the stocks. So for this I'm going to represent here, and similarly for this how much it should be of bonds, it should be of 29%. So like this I initially have to construct the bar chart. Once I constructed this, then I have to draw the line chart as well. So the combination of this can able to get the Pareto diagram. So it should be where I took the percentage values along the y-axis, and then variables what I took initially like stock, bonds, savings, and current deposit. Thus that should be on x-axis. So consider this how the data, I suppose the data should be of different of like multivariable or multivariant categorical data. So how can able to construct this bar chart and pie chart and then Pareto diagram. So for that I'm going to consider a consistency table for the investment choices like, so like the investment category should be same, so like stock, bonds and then savings, but I'm going to consider the different investors. So previously there should be one investor. Now I'm going to consider the different investors here. So what should be the values, the thousands in dollars for the stocks for the investor A, how it will be, and then for investor B, how much it should be, and investor C, and then total of that stocks value in terms of $1,000. So individual all values can also be expressed as percentage of overall total, percentage of row total, percentage of the column total. So for this multivariant categorical data, I'm going to represent this bar diagram. So it should be of at horizontal time. So for the single variable, so what should be the investor A, B, and then C here. So similarly for this particular current deposit variable, so what should be the variables like investor A, investor B, and investor C. So like this, I can able to represent the multivariable categorical data for different types of investor for the single variable, so that I can easily analyze which investor is going to be earn more dollars. I can able to easily identify by seeing this diagram. So what can I able to say that? So if I'm going to consider the savings, so investor B should be the highest one, and similarly for the current deposit, so investor B also earn more, and for the bonds also earn more, and the stocks also earn more. So like this, I can able to represent the multivariant categorical data by using the same bar chart also. So this should be what we called as multivariant bar chart and multiple bar chart. So similarly, I'm going to take another example, the sales by quarter for the three sales territories. So for that, I'm going to consider Eastern territories, Western, Northern territories, and I'm going to consider the quarters like first quarter, second, and third quarter. So how can I able to represent this? So in first quarter, what are the sales in different types of territories like East, West, and North? So for this, I'm going to use different colors like East, West, and the North. So orange is for East, green, and then blue is for North. So in first quarter, what should be those sales in Eastern, West, and North territories? So let us consider the first one here. So East, it should be of 20.4. So I mark the first bar here. And next one, Western. Okay, similarly for the second quarter, I can able to show it like what should be the pattern for this bar chart for this eastern one, and similarly what should be the value for the west, it should be, and like and north what should be. So like this, I can able to represent for the single column to the variable that should be also be side by chart diagram what we're able to call it as. So in similar fashion also can able to represent, so it should be the best one. So here it should be the horizontal one, and it may be the vertical one. So, what kind of principles you have to be considered for graphical experience excellence? You have to be considered here. So, for that, we have to be present the data in a way that it should be able to provide the substance, statistics, and design, and it should also communicate complex ideas with clarity, precision, and efficiency. So, it should also give the largest number of ideas in the most efficient manner, and it should also excellence almost involves in several dimensions and they tell the truth about the data. So there are so many principles of graphical experience. So first thing should be that whatever the data we're presenting in a way that should be able to provide most design and statistics, and we should also communicate the complex ideas what that may say clarity, precision, and then efficiency. So these are the basic principles of visualization where can able to make the visualization more clarity and give the largest number of ideas in the most efficient manner, and also excellence almost all involves in several dimensions and they tell the truth about the data. So these are some of the principles that have to be considered for the graphical excellence. And what kind of errors we have to be considered in presenting the data also have to be considered, like using chart junk and failing to provide a relative basis in comparing the data and between the groups, and then compressing or distorting the vertical axis, and it should also provide a no zero point on the vertical axis. So here, what kind of errors means chart junk. So using this chart junk, you can able to show the errors and presenting the data, and uh, failing to provide a relative basics in comparing the data between the groups. If I'm going to draw a bar diagram of separate one, so similar thing, so this may be of the year 2012 and 2013. So if I want to compare it, so it should be little bit difficult to compare how much of this percentage of more when compared to the 2012 sales to the 2013 sales, like this. So for this, instead of this, we can able to draw the better diagram, like for A it should be, and for B like this. So the instead of this diagram, it is better to show this one. That should be the better one. Visualization of comparing the data. So while comparing this, also you can also get some of the errors that is I'm explaining this, and then compression and distorting the vertical axis. So instead of showing the larger visualization, it should be looks better and feel better when compared. Similarly, if I'm going to take a small one, so it should be the vertical axis should be little bit compressed, so that I can unable to read the position and unable to read the values. So what should be, and similarly. Some of the graphs may be able to show non-zero point on vertical axis. It should be entirely not correct to be suggested also. So what is this, uh, instead of representing some other value, so it is not suggestible one. So what I'm going to mention, all the time you have to be start with zero for representing the data visualization. So let me express some of those good and bad presentation of representing this. So minimum age. So this one I'm going to represent it. So for that, so in 1916 it should be $1, and 1970 it should be slightly increased, 1918 and 1990. So instead of representing like this, so if I'm going to represent the form of this diagram, so the better representation should be that. So in 1960, how much it should be $1. So I marked it here. And for 1970, it should be 1.60. And for 1980, it should be 1990, it should be. So by joining all this, so what is saying this line, what is going to be represented here is, so all the time the wage values for all the persons year by year it should be go on increasing. So it is the better way of representing this charging, and no relative basis. So for this is also another kind of presentation, like so what should be the bad representation means, so A is received by the student, so here it should be freshman, and then sophomore and junior and senior. So am I here presenting this here in the form of frequency here. So what should be the better way of representing this should be here is that it is better to represent the form of percentages. That should be the no relative basis example. So that means, so instead of representing frequency, it is better to represent in the form of percentages. So instead of this, better we can also be shown in the form of pie chart. Let it be 30, 20, 10. So 60, right? So 60 again, 20 and 20. So if I'm going to represent the same thing in the form of presentations like pie chart, so it is better when compared with pie chart as well. And compressing vertical axis, so this should be the another way of representing So that means that compressing the vertical axis, that means what is going to be, suppose if I'm going to take the more number of values here, so the size of the bar should be little bit compressing. So what it means that it should be not that much clearly suitable for representation. So sometimes it may be it is difficult to choose the value, exact value, and then representing the value, and then it should also be difficult to read the what should be the exact value it is. So if I'm going to represent the more number of values along the y-axis, so what will happen, the size of the bar should be go on increasing. So what will happen, it should be the better look of this visualization. So the compressing vertical axis also, for that we are going to show that good representation for that. So by seeing the same kind of example, I'm going to, by saying changing the values, so how the visualization looks like, this should be entirely different, right? And next one should be no 0 point on vertical axis. This should be the another kind of bad representation should be that. So instead of representing graphing the first 6 months of the sale, I'm considering here. So for that I'm going to take how the bad representation should be. So instead of representing this starting from zero, so all the time the good practice is that it should be better to start with zero, but here I'm not representing this with zero. I'm going to be start with 36, so it should be entirely wrong. That should be bad presentation. Suppose if I'm going to show this same thing with the starting with zero, so how can I able to represent it? So what will happen, so I can able to draw this like this, so along the values, so that uh, there may be some of the values from 0 to 36. From 36 also I can able to draw the values, or otherwise it is better to change the values of a fixed range like 0 to 20, 20 to 40, and 40 to 60, so that the line should be looks better. So these are some of the different forms of presenting the data visualization, right? So for this data visualization, there should be some of the good and bad practices as well. So in this video I'm going to represent this about the what are the charts that are available for representing the categorical data. So for this, the categorical data, the data that may be come in the form of the text, so the better should be that it should be represented in the form of the table where you can able to summarizing the data. And this categorical data should also be done through graphing the data, which should be done through bar chart, pie chart, and Pareto diagram. So first, the text what I get that should be represented in the form of the table. So here, what I consider here is that's the current investment portfolio. So the variable should be taken on one of the column, and then value should be on that. And the bar chart and pie chart should be mostly often used diagrams that representing the qualitative data. And if I'm going to consider the bar chart, the size of the bar should be what should have to be considered, and the size of the slice, what should be the angle of the each and every slice should be considered here. So for this same kind of application, so what I'm showing, so I'm representing the horizontal bar chart. So by taking the variables on y-axis and values in dollars, so that should be on x-axis. So there are different types of bar charts that are available. So based on the application, you have to be choose which type of chart is the best one, like vertical bar chart, horizontal bar chart, and stacked or 100% bar chart. And so for similar application, so if I'm going to represent the form of this percentage, so that's thing what I'm going to consider. So I have to consider these percentages. So percentage means where I can able to draw the pie chart, and then within this angle I have to be find with the percentage values. So it should be equal to the 100% of all the values. So if the value is not matching with 100%, then it should not be suitable for that kind of application. And next one is that Pareto diagram. So Pareto diagram mostly used for the representing the category data. And so for the bar chart, where the categories are going to be shown in descending order of the frequency, and the cumulative polygon is often shown in the sum of same graph, and it's also used to separate the vital view from the trivial view. So the Pareto diagrams look should be the combination of bar chart and line diagram. So it should be another way of representing this any kind of application. So similarly, if I'm going to represent multivariant categorical data, how can I able to do that? So for representing this multivariable, I'm going to consider the same investment category, but each and every individual. So what should be this investments I have to, how much of investment they consider, how much earn they have, and I would like to know. So for that, I have to go for the same charts. So, but it should be of different view. So for each and every variable, so the investors are going to be split at times. So same thing. So for single variable, I am going to draw the three bar charts, and then for the current deposit also, I am going to consider the three bar charts. So like this for the multivariable, also I can make use of this bar chart, and in the form of horizontal way or vertical way. So I'm going to consider another thing like sales by territories. So where I can able to show what should be the cost quarter, second quarter, and third quarter. What are the values like this? And what are the kind of principles also I discussed for the graphical excellence, like presenting the data. It should be that it should be very viewed, and the design also be considered, and the communicating the complex ideas with the clarity, precision, and efficiency. And we should also view the most number of ideas in most efficient manner, and should also be excellence almost always in several dimension, and they tell the truth about the data. So these are the some of the principle what I'm going to be considered for representing that. So normally some of the errors that representing this data should be using chart junk, and then failing to provide comparing the two uh, groups, and compressing or distorting the vertical axis, and providing non-zero point on vertical axis. So these are some of the common errors where can able to get when representing this. So in order to avoid that, so what are the better and best representations also I have suggested here. Suppose if I'm going to represent the wage values, it should not be representing the diagrams, and then by seeing this diagram, it is difficult to judge what should be the value, whether it is going on increasing or decreasing or not. So for that, what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to go for better realization should be the line chart. So by seeing this line, what will many of the people may understood that the wage values are going on increasing every time or all the time, and no relative basis is another kind of representation. So this how this one is going to be overcome through other type of graphs. So it's a similar graphs, but the convention is going to be changed. So instead of taking the frequencies, so if I'm going to consider the percentages values, so what will happen, this the size of the bars going on increasing, and then so this also looks better when compared to the previous visualization what I'm going to show in the form of frequencies here. And bad frequency and good, next one is that, so what should be the better visualization for representing or compressing the vertical axis. So for this, so what I'm going to do, so normally if I'm going on increasing the values, the size of the bar is going to be increased. If we are going to decrease the values, decreasing the values, the size of the bar going on increasing. So these are the better way of representing while compressing the vertical axis. And last one is that 0 point on vertical axis. So for that, I'm going to be shown this. Suppose, so many of the people is not going to be start with 0 point. So some of the people may be able to start with 50, and some of the people are going to be start with 100%. So the better convention for representing this visualization should be start with 0 here. Suppose if I'm going to mention this from 36 onwards, so how can, what should be the convention for representing this means, so 0 and then make a symbol like this. So it indicates that there should be a values in between them. Okay, so that so based on that, if I'm going to consider another possible solution should be either I can able to fix the fixed values in between them. So difference of 20 and again make a fixed range 20, and 40 to next time 40 plus 20 60. So like this, some fixed range also had to be considered, and then draw the values according to this line chart. So it should be the better one, so when compared to the previous one. Okay, so these are some of the better visualizations of representing the charts for the categorical data. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.